We're on the road. Where transportation goes, community grows. Welcome to On the Road with the MTA. And welcome to another exciting edition of On the Road with the MTA. I'm Jay Gibbons alongside with Stephanie Kay from the MTA. How's Stephanie over there?
Well, I am great today because we have a very special guest today. It is our CEO. I call him Mr. Santa Claus because he just makes things happen for people.
You bet.
It is our very, I do. It's our very own CEO, Mr. Ed Benning. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you. I probably look more like Santa Claus these days, but okay.
Not at all. No, when people see you, they just light up. And Jay has told me when you're on the podcast like this, people tune in. They want to hear what you have to say because you're so caring. Every time I go out in the community and I talk about you, everyone says the same thing. He's just such a caring man. He's such a gentleman. He knows what the community needs and he makes it happen. And I know our staff sometimes think, yeah, you're great. But when you say, yeah, we're going to make it happen, they're like, what? Okay, we have to get car seats. We have to do what?
There you go.
But I know.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. We all love working for you and for MTA because they do so much for this community. And I know there is a millage coming up and it's August 4th. And people might say, well, why should we vote for that? Or why is that important to MTA? And I know all the important things we do, but you are the king of everything. So can you tell us why this millage might be so important to MTA this time, especially?
Yeah, well, I think maybe what may help is let me kind of go back to why we even have millages and start there. That might help people that are listening. In the mid-1992, about that time, there was a decision made at the federal level that they were going to discontinue providing operating money to transit properties across the country. As a result, they decided they would provide capital money to buy buses and tires and, IT equipment, things of that nature, but not operating. And that decision was made, I believe it was 1992. And so after 1992, we really had to continue to operate with money we received from the state and through special grants that we received, but pretty limited outlook, if you will. And so with that in mind, in the community, there was needs that were growing, especially for the disabled community. And we had a Your Ride system that was centered basically on the city of Flint and wherever we could provide for partnerships, which meant jurisdictions would put in some money to have Your Ride services, but that often caused people to argue about who was paying the bill and so on and so forth. So in 1996, we went to the Genesee County Board of Commissioners and we said, we need to go out in this community and get a countywide millage that will allow us to address the increasing needs for these type of services so that we could expand Your Ride type services and that countywide. And so the County Board of Commissioners said, well, we're not so sure you can pass a millage, but we won't stop you. So we did put the first millage out. It passed by nearly 80%. People said you should have asked for more money when we did it. But when we started growing the service, especially on the Your Ride side, it wasn't long, and the disabled community, one of our board members who's now deceased, but a great individual, was Mike Zelli, and he said, we need more of this. And so I recall when we went to the board, said we'd ask for an increase to kind of pump that up a little so we could address the growing needs and the popularity of that service. And so when the board was considering it, I recall they even increased the amount we were going to ask for because they realized how important it was. So, fast forward from then, since 1996, this community continues to support millages that generally run out after 5 years. And since our original millage effort, we did have a couple of increases. So we ended up where we had 3 millages, our original one and 2 small ones. So it seemed like every time we turn around, we were going to the community asking for them to vote on a millage because each one would run out and we'd have a vote the next year. Here we were again. And so we combined them into one. That's where we're at today. Well, what's happened since we've combined them is that the needs in the community just continue to grow. And when we were faced with the pandemic, we had a situation where the whole world changed, as we all know. And for us to be able to hire people, for us to pay our mechanics, our drivers, supplies, many things that we were so accustomed to, all that changed. And luckily, we were in a position that we've been able to work through that. And we did that because we were successful in putting some money aside as a result of going to alternative fuels and making some really great decisions on the business. And so we've been able to survive. But what's happened is that at the state level, we're eligible to receive 50% of our annual operating cost. The state struggles to give us 30%. So when you're getting 30% and instead of 50, some decisions have to be made. And one of those decisions is, in order to make that up and to have service that really helps people in the community, we have millages. And that's why we have a millage. If we had the money that the state should be giving us on an annual basis, we would not need a millage. And so as much as we don't want to ask the community to give us more money, we ask them to renew. What's going on around us, all of us are seeing it, is the need for medical transportation in this community is gone off the charts. I can't believe what's happening. And, people are living longer. Many young people today are having medical issues. And then we have our veterans and others. And if we don't have a great transportation system, often people wonder, how am I going to get to my appointments? How will I deal with life? And I just dealt with a couple of my staff that are dealing with the same issue. And all of a sudden they got a medical issue. And, I wanted to assure them that if you need transportation, you're going to get it. But they were already looking into what family member would take them, how they're going to get there. And, when someone is afflicted by whether it's cancer or dialysis or whatever it may be, all of a sudden, all the tests they have to go through, all the things that they're experiencing, without great transportation, things just don't happen. And so, the millage is extremely important going out at this time, because we don't want to get into a situation of starting to cut services. Cutting services in a community that needs more service is the wrong direction. And so I know that's an awful lot of information, but I will say this, that we are a very frugal organization with the money we receive. We are a public agency with a private sector attitude. And we can stand on our record of what we've been able to do and how innovation and creativity has allowed us to become number one, not only in the state of Michigan, but in the country. And so we're proud of it. We appreciate the support we've received. This millage is extremely important because it comes after a time that we're still transforming our services countywide because of what happened after the millage.
Well, I know the work you do is superb, and thank you for all of that information. I told Jay I learned something new every day about MTA, and you just shine some light on things I didn't realize, how it got started and why it was needed. I guess I may have heard it before, but when you reiterate it, it makes it so much more important. And I know firsthand, having used the services, my father was diagnosed with cancer. We'd never had cancer in the family. I didn't know what that even really meant, but he had to get to his treatments, and I was working, my mother was working, and we were struggling to get him there. And you told me about your ride, can pick up my father from his house and take him to these needed cancer treatments for just $2.25. That is less than a gallon of gas. I don't know how you could afford to do that, but now I know why the millage is so important and how the support is so important. And people might think, well, I drive my own car. I don't need it. That's just for poor people. I don't need it. You don't realize the cup of coffee you may have received this morning, that man behind the counter had to use the bus service to get to work and get back home to make your coffee. So it is a much wider need than we even realize. And speaking of cancer treatments, we gave almost 6,000 rides last year alone. And you mentioned dialysis, 63,000 rides to dialysis. And sometimes this is at the end of their life. They have to make them as comfortable as we possibly can. So I have to thank you, Ed, because I know we were a public transportation, but you added your ride. You added rides to wellness, and you just added the new microtransit that we're having, which is Genesee Connect. And you know what the community needs. and you make that happen. And that's just one more thing that we're doing that I really appreciate. And the trolleys in Davison, it was in Fenton. You just make sure the community have what they need, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. That's very nice of you, and appreciate it. And we were able to do it because of great people like you and Jay and the staff there, and the commitment. Around the country, I will tell you this, and it's kind of sad that I see some systems that are very static. They just do the same thing over and over, and they have no interest in change. They have no desire to do something different. It's almost like they're coasting. And I look around and I think, you poor people that are being affected. Today some of them may say, I don't use the service, so I don't want to support it. But many of them, if you ask them, do you have any relatives that are currently being treated for cancer and other things? Have you had any deaths in your family recently where individuals been affected, or you may be affected? And, are you seeing what's going on? The roadmap around us is not good. I'm alarmed at the amount of medical needs in our community today. It is a shocker. I just went to lunch with Father Andy. Father Andy and I were talking, and he told me he just can't believe, he deals with, I think, about 6 funerals a week anymore, but
Wow.
he was telling me he can't believe the amount of people that are affected just by cancer alone.
Yes.
And, hearts and other thing, and they all, but, just cancer alone. And so, it's just amazing.
You hear about cancer more and more every day. I was told by a doctor that I think it's a 75 corridor. If you live along there, your chance of getting cancer is so much higher just because of the plants dumping things in the water or whatever. There's just much more cancer than I've ever heard before in my life. And also, you mentioned there's the smoke right now. We had no control over that. The smoke that's bellowing in from Canada, and we're all coughing and breathing that in. So you never know when that could affect you with your lungs, and the parasite that's out right now in the lettuce. You never know when it might affect you or your loved ones, and you might need a ride to the doctor, or you might need that ride that no one else can provide. You just don't know. We're one day away from anything happening to any of us.
Yeah, well, when we talk about the millage, one thing I tell people is that I can tell you as a taxpayer, the money's well spent. It's
Yes.
We only ask for what we need, and matter of fact, what we're asking for this millage renewal and the slight increase that's in there doesn't pay for all of what we see ahead of us. That means we've got to do other things. And you mentioned our new on-demand service. We're very proud of having that new on-demand micro transit. It will be a sustainable service. It will be great for the community, and at the same time, it allows us to expand service without expanding cost. And we have to find ways to just to be, even that much better control of the funds we do have and the services we can provide. But, we, as long as I'm around, one thing's going to happen. That is that we're going to address the needs of the community. We're going to look out there, like you say, we're going to say what's needed and how can we make it happen. And I wish, we really had that model even more so. Sometimes, I don't think we all experience it. You call some business and you ask, you need something, and they go, we don't do that, or we don't have that.
Yeah.
And I think, where do you stop and go, wait a minute, we don't have what do you need? Let's see if there's a way we can help you. Isn't that a nicer approach? And that's where we got to go, and so whether I'm in Washington or other places, people ask that question. They'll say, well, why did you decide to do this? And say, we should do it. That's what we're here for, and so there's risk that goes with it, but the reward, I think, is much higher. And it's really all about the quality of life in our community, and it's all about the people. And people appreciate what we have. And we just started a new program to provide free transportation for area youth from that will be going on over the next couple of months. And we're really proud of that, because many of the youth, once the school bus drops them off in their neighborhood, they don't have anywhere to go or anything to do. Wouldn't it be nice they could access a job, go to the library, be able to, do those things and have free transportation to help them while they're off for the summer?
I love that you did that. And now I don't think people realize all the other community services that you provide either, like the Wreaths Across America. We gave about 8 buses to transport people back and forth to put the wreaths on the veterans' graves, which is so important. And we do the Senior Power Day, taking all the seniors from all the senior centers to the Crossroads Village where they can get all the resources they might need. And the Crim Race. I know Mike and I used to host it down there. It was always so hard finding parking to get down there, but there's several buses running constantly. It's all community services, getting you back and forth down there. We don't have to worry about parking. And that's all a free service for the community that you've provided. And something else that I help with here, and I don't think people realize how much we do, is something extra we don't have to do, but you said okay, you said yes to everything. Anybody needs something, he always says yes, and we make it happen. If there's a field trip, or if there's a senior center, or if there is any activities that you might need to take a group of people to an event, that is the biggest obstacle for like the Boys and Girls Club or the youth center. And we've already provided 175 special transportation rides alone this year. And that's a lot. That's something that people couldn't even do if we didn't provide those buses. And you talked about children, the youth. They're all going to need jobs one day. And if you have a high school student or a college student, I want you to keep in mind that MTA employs over 600 employees. And you can do mechanics, you can be a driver, you can be a manager, you can be a dispatcher. There's so many opportunities for people out there. And I think we are one of the largest employers in Genesee County.
Yeah, I don't think we're the largest, but we're among the largest.
No, I said one. I said one of the largest.
There you
I
go.
said one of the largest, yes. I did say one.
Yeah, but, well, we're very fortunate. We have so many dedicated individuals working for us and out there providing great service on a daily basis. And, we can put the service out, but then we depend on the people. And the passion I see with our people and some of the stories and some of the things that I witness and hear about really makes you feel great. It's just we have the opportunity to make a difference, and when we recognize that, it's up to us to employ that and not just set and say, well, if it happens, okay. Well, like you say, I think saying yes and figuring out a way to make it happen is much more exciting than the alternative.
Well, I saw you do that firsthand when the Great Lakes Crossing Mall was beautiful. They opened that up and nobody in that area wanted to work. And you were like, well, wait a minute, there's people in Genesee County that need jobs. What if we provide a bus service from Genesee County to Great Lakes Crossing to give you employees? And by gosh, that worked. I know people gave you a hard time about that, saying, why would you take people out of Genesee County? And you said, well, it'll bring money back when they buy houses and groceries and cars. And it sure did. And now, last year alone, almost 30,000 rides to give people rides to work, which is amazing. It kept them living. It kept them in their homes. So you've made a difference in everyone's lives.
I appreciate it. I think that, we can all feel great about what we're doing because we are making a difference in people's lives. And I tell people it may be paying more in taxes. It may be part of that whole scheme, but I couldn't think of a better investment. And I feel very proud of what we do, and I support what we ask the community to do. I would love to get more from the state. We have to keep fighting that fight with the state. If the state would give us the money we're eligible for, we would not even need a millage. And the reality is we received 1 year, we received the full 50% since 1996.
Wow.
Only one year. Everything besides that has been, even as low as 25% at one point, but today we're up around 30, and we're still fighting today just to get money. Under Act 51, the language reads up to. Well, that's where the legislature can make decisions to give us up to or a little less. And,
right.
At times it's easier to say, well, we'll just give them, what we think that we can afford. And, there are individuals that, unfortunately, in the legislature don't understand public transit, and a few of them, it's been an eye-opener. I remember one legislator in particular had said that he wouldn't support public transit. He thought it was a draw on state funds, and people should pay their own way. And then he fell down his basement steps, and for the next 10 weeks, he was transported by Lansing CATA to get him back and forth to work every day for about 10 weeks. And you can believe he become very, very well understood the difference of not having a ride and having a ride.
Yeah.
That's why I say when it finally affects you, that's when you realize how important it is. And I think I share with you my co-host, Mike McDonald. He had you in the studio so many times interviewing you, and we heard the wonderful services you were providing. And he didn't even realize it when he himself had an accident where he just had a phased out for a minute, and he hit a tree, which he's fine. Everything was fine. It never happened before or after. But because of that, they took away his license for 6 months, which he had never expected. And when he called, well, how am I going to get a ride to church and get around? And you said, well, your ride, $2.25 can take you anywhere in Genesee County. And he's like, oh my gosh, I never thought about that. You're right. So it's out there for you, and you don't know if you need it until you need it. And it's like a little insurance policy. And you mentioned the taxes, how much it would cost. I looked it up. It's going to cost me less than a cup of coffee a month to make sure these services continue on. And when you mention like the emergencies, we are the first responders as well. 911 calls us. Yeah, if there's a warming center needed, the heat goes out in an apartment. There was a explosion near my house not too long ago, and on the news I thought, what's MTA's bus doing down there? They went down to take people away from harm's way and to take them to a safe location. And I know our bus drivers are great. When Clara Barton had a fire years ago, a bus driver actually got out of the bus, went inside to pull people out to make sure they were safe. We have great employees. Well, Mr. Benning, thank you so much for all of your time. I know how busy you are, and people love to hear from you. And you just enlightened us so much. Thank you for that information. Did you learn something from that too, Jay?
Yep. And I believe the Millage, the vote is August 4th, right?
August 4th is on Tuesday. Yes. There's a lot of people already have their ballot. They already have their mail-in ballots at home. But if not, you can go in person August 4th. Yeah. Did either one of you do a mail-in?
I already mailed mine in, matter of fact.
Good for you. How about you, Jay?
I'm walking distance to the polling booth, so that's
okay.
There you go.
I want to make sure mine gets in there. I'm going to do it in person. I want to make sure it's in there.
Yeah, well, I appreciate being on today. I appreciate both of you. You've done a tremendous job with this podcast program since the inception. And today I appreciate you reaching out to me because it is so important to all of us. But people need to know what's behind the millage. It's more than just a money grab. It's really, this is all about people. You know, it's the lives of people. And like I say, I am seeing right now an increase in medical like nothing I ever thought we would experience. And friends, relatives, my family right now, I have a brother 10 years younger, and he's struggling right now with all kinds of medical issues. I just, it's just an eye opener.
You never know. And you would say, you've given me some statistics that every single day, 10,000 people are turning 65 years old, and that's going to continue happening for the next 17 to 20 years, which means more chances of having something medical, a medical need or a disability.
Sure.
I know.
We aging in place, and we hope we stay healthy.
Yes. Well, you have to stay healthy, my friend, because we need you here. You make such a difference. I can't imagine MTA without you.
Well, thank you. Well, likewise for you too. Well, you too. You have a great day, and thanks again for reaching out to me.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for listening. Please tune in every week as we do this podcast, bringing you the information the community needs and making it a safer, better place to live. It's On the Road with the MTA, Stephanie K. and Jay. Thanks for listening. Do stay safe.
You've been listening to On the Road with the MTA. For more information on our services and community outreach, visit us online anytime at www.mtaflint.org. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The MTA, your community, your connection, your way.